are poor and hungry. If you want to join the fight, come stand with us on the right side of history. Divided we stand, united we fall. In the belly of the beast, fighting fascists, the tyrants.
That's right. They're all liars and they're all tyrants. And it's making our lives very exhausting and frustrating. So what's new in your life? In any case, this is Divided We Stand on YouTube and on Facebook. If you're unfamiliar with this channel, we ask that you subscribe. We are not a monetized channel, which means you won't experience any commercials. It's as though you have a purchase plan. Isn't that nice? And you can find us on Facebook. Simply become a member. We have quite a few members, well over 1,500 or 1,600. So we ask that you become a part of it. It's growing. And we are doing something. We do what we can. In any case, I'd like to begin by introducing my co-host and good friend, educator, journalist, troublemaker, I guess, David Price. Dave, you've been listening to my music, I hear.
Well, here's the thing. I would say with absolute certainty, the number one danger to America right now is Donald Trump. Probably the number two danger is MAGA as a group. But the number three danger, and moving up with a bullet, is any music, ladies and gentlemen, prepared for the gentleman that you know as Brian Weinstein. Now, I would say if there was ever music to throw up by, this would be a good selection. If there was ever you were with someone and somehow you got involved intimately with them in a moment and you just really didn't want to, just didn't want to continue, put any one of Brian Weinstein's new creations on, and guaranteed, male or female or any other type of person, because unlike Donald Trump, I think there are multiple genders. I guarantee you that coitus or any other sexual activity will not be finished while listening to Brian's music. Now, I suppose you could take it that I'm critical of Brian's music. I'm not. I try to be objective. And so Brian asked me very nicely to, because a lot of what, when you do stuff like we do online or whatever, it's a lot about likes and all that. And a lot of times you need reviews. So, Brian asked me to review. And I said, Brian, I have to be honest. And so this was my review. It was very short, but I think it's honest. It sucks. And if you wrote this, you do too. So anyway.
Okay.
Enough
I won't send any more
music.
Broadway songs. All right, yeah. So, Dave, what do you have planned for us today?
Well, I guess we'll stay a little with tradition. We'll do our top three.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this was a difficult week in that sometimes something really stands out, right? But this week, it was difficult in a different way. I've really had 6 things that I thought, we should talk about. But we'll stay with the 3 and then blend some of the others in later in the show. So the way this works, ladies and gentlemen, if you're new to the show, is I usually do this. I select 3 topics to talk about, and then Brian chooses the order in which we talk about them. Mm-hmm. And of course, one of the big things that we always want, we like, we need, we exist for your comments. And that they're very important. We try to acknowledge as many of them as we can. And also, we certainly are not averse to doing what we're already seeing when people say hi, hello, back and forth to each other. I see one coming up there. Brian's music sucks more than. No, I'm sorry. That was a different website. Anyway, so let's look at these three. No particular order. Ready, Brian?
You got it.
We decided, or Donald Trump decided, that it was in best American interest to capture a Venezuelan oil tanker. Okay, sure, Donald. Stick with drinking Diet Coke. Then, in what I'm sure will shape into a conversation, hopefully lasting not too many weeks, about what the hell it looks like the Republican Party is somewhat imploding. And of course, we have Mr. Trump, the great threatener, the threatener in chief, having to threaten Indiana, of all places, because they failed to do what he said. And basically, what he wanted was a redistricting. And enough Republicans said, go get bent, that didn't come to fruition. And, the old image of him throwing ketchup or whatever against the wall. I don't think he did that, but boy, did he hit Truth Social. And then the one that it struck me, nothing he hasn't done before. In fact, this was one of the core of his campaign in terms of disparaging people. And so he decided to talk about Somalia as disgusting, vile, non-human beings who shouldn't come in to this country, and hinting that those that are here should be deported. Of course, that's because one of his enemies, he has so many, in Congress happens to have ties to the Somalian community. So, Brian, which one you want to take first?
I'd like to begin with our title, if you don't mind. It's a very general topic,
Sure.
but the party imploding. Is it imploding? That is that. I go with that first, and then I would like to go into the threatening Indiana, and then to the oil tanker.
Okay, so what do you got? So what do you got on? What's your take on the status of the Republican Party right now? And of course, the Republican Party for a while has been the status of Donald Trump. They've been intertwined. What do you see happening?
Right. Well, as you had said, and this kind of ties into the second one we'll be talking about with Indiana. We already see that there are some Republicans who, at least publicly, are not afraid to go against the president. We know that Marjorie Taylor Greene, a person we all disrespect, but she is coming out against him. Now, of course, she's had some death threats to her family. I'm not surprised. You're probably not surprised. And as you said, there have been some threats against lawmakers in Indiana. So I think there's something there. There are small cracks, but like any other tyrant, they're going to have a crack down because they don't want the cracks. So this should be a war. At least my speculation is there will be a war within the party, and he's going to come really tough against his own first rather than the Democrats, because he's got to control them first. I would imagine you'd agree. But with Trump, you never know. So that's where I feel that now is it leading to success for the Democratic Party? I don't know, because he could still win this thing within his party, with enough intimidation. And don't forget, it's not just Trump. He's got money behind him, and is that at Supreme Court, he has everything behind him. So I don't know, Dave. Let's have your input.
Well, one thing he can't control in its entirety is his, even though he doesn't exhibit it often, he is human. Okay? So look at that first. I think he is failing mentally, whether it's dementia or something else. I do not know. I'm not qualified to make that distinction. He is failing definitely physically. Now, we will never know, probably, at least until they cart him out, if he happens to succumb in the middle of the night. We don't know what's wrong with him, and we wouldn't get an honest answer anyway. But so you've got that. Now,
he may not even know what's wrong with himself, too.
Well, or he might deny it. Now,
he would deny it, of course.
I've said that before, but it bears repeating. I think this is important. In general, if your life is going pretty well, you don't refer, and you've never been inside of a church with the right mind to be there. You don't start talking about Jesus and heaven and dying, and I don't think I'm going to get there. Now, the problem with saying that, is Trump actually took one of those that he said and turned it into, believe it or not, and turned it into fundraising for him. Basically saying, if you will send $25 or more in, that would help me buy a stairway to heaven, almost literally, right? So is he really that? I mean, we never know with him, right?
Right.
But let's get back to the specifics. You mentioned two that are very important to keep our eye on. One is Marjorie Taylor Greene. Now, we all have some differing reactions to her. My thing is, as long as she's battling Trump, I don't care about anything she did before. I do not care. I would never vote for her. I do not believe she's had a change of heart to become good. I think that's something she can't do. But I do think there's a couple things in play. One is she is not as dumb as we think she is. You know how like a feral animal? She's sort of a feral politician, I think. I think she does understand the MAGA mindset and plays to it. I think but the difference is Trump is making all this stuff up. I think MTG is really a believer. I really do. But again, she is returned, as most of them do, but more. I think her ties to her district in Georgia are a little bit tighter than some of the others. So I don't think she would have made this move without the idea of knowing that she had some support still in her district. Now, is she going to run for president of the United States? Possibly. Is she more likely going to run for governor or senator from Georgia? That is definitely, I think, more probable. Is she trying to make herself an alternative candidate for vice president? You know, but whatever it is, and it could just be, as some have said, she could just feel the jilted lover. Remember, for a long time, she was the queen of MAGA. There was nobody really in contention. Lauren Boebert would have been the closest thing, and MTG was, got much more publicity about political things. Lauren's things were, given a hand job in a theater and that kind of stuff. So she was more the sexy, weird kind of person. And Marjorie was the space laser kind of weird person. But I do think that's indicative of and how that relates to the Indiana situation. They are not going to tackle Trump if they thought Trump was at the top of the game and the top of his powers. They wouldn't do it. All right. They also, and you've mentioned this numerous times, Brian, and I think you're 100% accurate about the idea of death threats and what's there. And it's one thing for all of us. I mean, I've never received it. Well, I did once, but I only received one death threat. And that was from Judy, my wife. Now, this was a long time ago when I was a reporter and I was covering a mob case and that. But I mean, it wasn't, I didn't really think about it that way. But I don't think there's anything that MAGA might not do. So if they were to make death threats, yes, they're bullies. Yes, they may have some problems carrying it through. But some of them, again, are true believers. So whatever it is, maybe Ms. Greene thought, that she was above that they wouldn't come after her. But what it proves is what we've known all along. And when I say we, Trump opponents, Trump doesn't even have a concept of loyalty.
No.
He's 100% transactional. And I've never seen anyone who's transactional of the minute. I mean, he is almost of the millisecond. In other words, what did you do for me now? Do something. What'd you do now? Or what? So with Indiana, and I noticed that
Julie's from Indiana, and she's very proud of.
And I think that's something you can say of. I think it is.
She's proud of her college football team. It looks like they could win it all. Maybe.
Maybe that's what inspired the state legislator to do that. Yeah, they've got a They've got a Heisman Trophy winner and seeded one. So we'll see. But actually, it is big. You can't underrate.
And I think the Cutters of Indiana won the bicycle race.
You would follow that.
That's that movie.
No. Yeah, I know.
Okay.
Hoosiers, right? Which
Something
is
like that. No, it wasn't Hoosiers. But
basketball.
Breaking away.
The home of Bobby Knight. But seriously, with Indiana, I think that's kind of crucial simply because Indiana is known as being a relatively conservative state. And for them to do it, you know, do what they did, I think it is telling. Now, where does it go from here? Of course, we don't know. But I would say this: I'm gonna wrap it up this way. Donald Trump isn't on the ropes yet, but he's headed there, and I don't know if he has the wherewithal to stop himself.
He does have
And
there was one victory he had this week, Dave, which might not be thought of as a victory to most people, but I see it as a victory for him with CBS, because it looks like CBS is now going to be more or less like
well,
Fox.
they identify they're now being compared to Fox News. But
I haven't seen it like that yet, but
No, it's bad, and this this really does. I don't know if it pains me. I I say it pains me. Don't even care much anymore about this. But journalism today, take it from someone who spent 12 years in the business and 4 years teaching the business in college, and 3 years dealing with the business in Washington as a tour guide and lecturer at the Museum of News here. There is no such thing right now as good journalism being produced at the behest of the big companies. Now, there's still journalists doing great work, but some of it is, for example, Washington Post does great writers, but 121 of them, it's either 121 or 124, I can't remember, have left or been dismissed. Okay? And guess what? A lot of them have not been replaced. Why? Well, of course we know why. Jeff Bezos needs more money. Oh, come on, for real. But now CBS, but I think they're playing a little risky game too. Maybe they're figuring they can steal from Fox. I don't think they can.
Can they out Fox? I mean, I don't know.
Well, they might be able. I don't know how much personal money Murdoch puts into Fox. I mean, he's a very wealthy person, but CBS has a lot of wherewithal. But we've seen recently, and Trump is a catalyst for this, we've seen some pushback from people, whether it's boycotting Target, whether it's actually, there's now a new term, and I don't know how new it is, kind of new to me, called boycott. I don't know if you've run across that. It's where it goes where you go to Costco because they're the good guys and spend more money than you would, right? Mm-hmm. And then the old traditional boycott where, you don't. So I think they're playing kind of a, I don't know game, because right now, if I would just keep my mouth shut if I was in a position where Trump as president could affect or not affect me. Enough people in the news, but this Kerry Weiss is no question. I mean, she's a complete and utter new conservative, which means no heart conservative. Mm-hmm. Stephen Colbert. Now it's interesting. Colbert, if anybody follows that, and I mean Colbert is the real deal. Again, this is just me personally. I thought Jon Stewart was brilliant, but I always thought Colbert was better. That's just me. I'm not saying it is, right? But his show has been canceled. Now he'll bounce fine. He'll do fine. I mean, there's not a problem with it. But he's going out with some more attacking as late night, as most of late night is. So you've got, and Trump continues this attack on Kimmel, on Colbert, on Seth Miller, it's anyone who dares, to make fun of him. And again, Brian, something you said, and I've often believed this. There's a couple ways to handle a bully. One is to punch him in the nose, but sometimes bullies are bigger than you.
Right.
And in this case, Donald Trump has more power than I have. But I take every opportunity I can to belittle, make a satirical character out of him, ridicule. That they're very good. In fact, maybe the best.
I think South Park's more effective than any Democrat right now in Congress.
Oh, no question. Mm-hmm. Because, well, that'd be interesting. We should do a show on that. You and I also share this in common, and I share it so much that January 1st, I'm redoing everything I do and bringing out a whole bunch of new projects based on this. But pop culture and politics are now one and the same. Mm-hmm. They really are. And it's been going that way a long time. It always was.
We just didn't realize it.
Well, the thing was pop culture. I suppose. I suppose if you really think, I mean, there's always been pop culture.
It
I mean, there
wasn't
was pop
taught
culture.
very much in
There was
schools.
no, but there was pop culture in the Roman Empire. I mean, but I think that the moment that it began to really foment and move away was the fact that when radio came in, now you could reach all the people. Radio followed by movies, followed by TV, followed by the internet, and now pop culture is the thing. So right now, South Park has its following, and it certainly has stayed in the news. I think the two creators of South Park did it for the politics, and the ratings followed, right?
Right.
And so, I mean, it's a byproduct. Now, certainly they're not turning down. It would be interesting to know how many people who had never, I would like to know this figure, I suppose it's out there somewhere. How many people have watched South Park in this most recent spate of controversy versus never seeing it before?
Yeah.
And that would be, I mean, that would be a very telling figure. And I know that in general, South Park skewers to young people or crazy old people like me. So, like both my grandchildren have watched it, Audrey for a while and Owen when it became hot. So, anyway, kudos to Indiana, and
So far, we don't know if that pressure will make them buckle.
Well,
Strange things
true.
can happen, but for
But-
right
but-
now, we give them credit.
And that's what I think we have to remember is, okay, I'll use your favorite team and mine too, the Eagles. Right, so 3 weeks, right, losing. Oh my God, it's over. Fire Sirianni, throw Jalen Hurts to the Tigers, whatever. Today, 31-0. Oh, they're great. They're going to the Super Bowl. But that isn't really life, okay? And so this thing is not going to be ended tomorrow, taking it back to Trump. But each victory, celebrate it. Because having Indiana even buck for a moment, and I kind of get this feeling they may stay pretty solid. Because I don't think they would have done it if they thought, we're going to turn around and buckle. I don't think so. Because politicians don't usually act like that. So take this, for all of us who are anti-Trump, this is a victory. As Julie says, go users, go users, and have to talk real well for a talk show guy, and sit back and say we won that one. Okay, that's how I look at it anyway.
Okay.
Any final thoughts from you on?
I
on
just
Indiana
talking
or-
about with Indiana. No, I just like to have a wait and see attitude. I think what they did was great, but I do know the pressure's there, and we know that Trump works behind the scenes. It's almost it's predictable because it's almost like the Supreme Court. When Trump needed the Supreme Court, all of a sudden they got moving very, very quickly. Where other things they would just let it wait for a
Right.
year, and they seem to always come through to him because it's a criminal court. I mean, 6 of those people are basically working for the GOP. So when you get back to Indiana, I just think that the pressure is going to be. First of all, don't forget you're talking about people who work in state government, and you're dealing with the feds and Trump. That's awfully tough to deal with.
I understand that. I also wonder, and again, this is completely speculative. You know who's from Indiana? I think isn't
Larry Bird,
Mr.
I know
Pence?
that.
Is
Mr.
it
Pence,
Mr.
yes, he is from Indiana, correct.
Now, certainly Trump did not treat Mr. Pence real well.
No, he
And
didn't.
I'm sure that I'm sure that former Vice President Pence has a lot of still oomph in Indiana, a lot of friends. So that may have something to do with it too. I don't know that. That's
I don't know.
speculative.
People are fickle in any state, and
But you know what, though?
Who knows?
What I found, and this is just, again,
Trump still won Indiana during the election easily. So
no question. But was Pence working again? I mean, we don't know. So I'm just saying.
Pence, he did it one good thing, but
But again, Brian,
couldn't follow through.
Sometimes you underestimate that. And what I mean by that, Pence did one good thing. Okay, but he did that, and don't even say good. He jammed up Donald Trump. That's what he did. Trump said, do this, and he said, go fuck yourself.
Right. And by the way, if Trump does fall, that's when I think Pence will a little bit late, but he'll come out and he'll probably write a book or another
Oh,
book.
he's going to write a book anyway. I mean, this is tailor made.
He'll make his money with that book because he's
Yeah,
the one who
well,
would know. He would know all the crap that went on, A to
as well
Z.
as well as anyone.
But he could be incriminating himself too by.
He's on
you know,
he's on the outer edge of the circle. I mean, certainly Bannon. Certainly.
And as he gets older, Dave, talking about somebody who actually worries about, religious
Well,
implications.
I think Pence really believed that he was Christian.
I agree.
Hey, come here. I'm going to straighten you out on that. But for example, he did not want to be one of the famous quotes that everybody messed with him for is he did not want to be alone with a woman. And see, for me, if that's the case, your God ain't protecting you too well
Right,
if you could fall to that temptation. But that's neither here nor there. So I'm going to say Indiana did good. Marjorie Taylor Greene did good. Vice President Pence did good. Each time you strike, they can strike closer to Trump's heart than we can.
Well, you have to have the back and forth thing happening to make this thing effective. That's how you get your implosion, where they go after each other. And right now, Greene is still doing it. She was on CNN recently. We'll see what happens with Indiana, but we have to see some bigger names. And I think the people, because they're so feckless, they'll just wait and see what the polls say. If they start seeing the Republicans moving away from him.
Well, remember though, nobody worries about the polls more than elected politicians. Nobody has better access to real-time polling than politicians. They know which ones are real and which ones are duped in their favor or in the opponent's favor. So if I take all the tea leaves and put them on the table, Indiana, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Trump, what is it, 40 now? I think they're up to 40 senators and congressmen not running for re-election in the Republican Party. Now that's good and bad, because the ones that would be Trumpers, they're moving up. They're not the big numbers, those who oppose Trump. So in other words, if he wins, if the MAGA party wins, he'll have even more support. But right now I'm okay. Which one do you want to go with next, Brian?
All right, we're talking about him threatening Indiana and the redistricting.
So we got Venezuelan oil.
We got Venezuelan oil.
And disparaging Somalis. Which one do you want to go with?
Let's go with the oil tanker, because I know we kind of briefly talked about it last week, but that one's a weird one because it certainly seems to me and to many people that he's trying to push for a confrontation. He wants a victory. It'd be very easy to beat Venezuela, no matter what the odds are, unless Venezuela.
I think I'd put my money on the U.S.
And by the way, if in fact that's illegal goods, it's going to Iran or vice versa. These things have happened before, and they didn't escalate. But now he's tried to escalate, so he might, under the guise of this being shenanigans between Venezuela and Iran, which is a possibility, he still is escalating, and he wants to hit pay dirt. He wants to have an invasion. He wants to get Maduro out, and that must mean that he's going to be doing not only himself a favor, probably the Saudis too, because don't forget, the Saudis have been, if you notice, the gas prices have been lower. And there's only one way you get those lower, and that's through Saudi Arabia. And they keep helping Trump out. We've seen all products, basically most products are rising in price. But, oil, because it's the bloodline of our economy, when the prices go down for oil, you have anything that relates to plastics, the prices at the gas pump, you see them every 4 days when you go to the gas station, or however many days it takes for you to get there. So it's very, very visible. And Trump, in a certain sense, despite the fact that the prices are rising at the grocery stores, it's been held down by these energy prices going down. And again, it's the favors from Saudi Arabia, but Saudi Arabia is in competition with Venezuela.
Let me say how I see that. First of all, not that you're wrong. I think you're right. But I think, interesting enough to me, it's easiest to tie the drop in the gas prices into a bad thing, actually. And the way would be was these gas prices aren't really helping you. That is, they deals with the Saudis because he's made so many of them.
Are you saying just because of demand that the demand's down?
Yeah, yeah, and the whole thing, and it's tied into big stuff. The thing that isn't tied into that is your rent or your mortgage. And anyone who goes to the grocery store, unless you are, certainly, I would say income, depending on where you live, but income over over $100,000 total family income. I mean, you still see the increase, but I mean, it gets a little dicey now in terms of as you watch things go. One of the things that I always look at where we go, they had I like filet mignon. It's the only steak I have. And once in a while, so does my wife, and we'll get it. It is now $35 a pound. And it continues to rise. Another one that I thought was interesting. Now, Arizona iced tea stays at 99 cents for that. I mean, that's another. I mean, there are people that are holding the line, but it's very rare. And you go. I mean, I think the grocery store to me. Now, maybe I'm wrong. And please, if anybody disagrees, please put it up because I don't like to be wrong. Somehow, it just strikes me that the price of food hits home more than the price of gas. The price of gas is a talking point, right? But somehow, that's just my opinion. Now, of course, he can say now, but of course, he lies so much that it doesn't matter.
Lies all the time.
It doesn't matter what he says. You either believe him or you don't. And if you believe him, you are a fool, or you have some skin in the game, to use a cliche. You're going to benefit from. You don't believe his lie, but you're going to benefit from it.
Yeah, whatever it is, Dave. These MAGA folk, they are not budging. So it could be there. It is, I don't even want to speculate. There's so many reasons why they do what they do. But the bottom line is something's really wrong when you support that.
But we got to get Trump out first. I will say this: Donald Trump has not gained a voter. Not one voter in the United States of America since he took office.
But he's gained votes, so that's where we.
Well, then now
and how he gets those votes—that's another story.
That's exactly it. So I mean, it's not good, but I'm just saying that's pretty good.
No, you're right. You're right, and I'm right.
It would be horrible. And remember, I was talking today with one of the great historians. Obviously, he's 93 now, and we're friends. And we're talking about all this today. And basically, we were talking about America has never changed in this sense. With the American Revolution, it was a third, and a third, roughly. A third wanted to break from England because it was it was to their benefit. And trust me, it wasn't. They didn't care about whether it was for America's benefit. They cared it was for their benefit. All right, and that was just an after thought. A third wanted to remain with England, and again, it was even in families. Benjamin Franklin's son was a loyalist. I mean, there were a lot of family things just like that. But a third just said, "Leave me alone, man. I've got enough.
Man.
I'm trying to get my crops in. It doesn't really matter to me." And I think that's the fallacy that we have to really address: is politics matters more than anything else, because politics touches everything.
And by the way, that's what you and I had pressed years ago with the environmental issues, because you cannot deal with the environment unless you deal with the political end of it.
Everything is politics. Not because I like politics, which I do, not because I write about politics, which I do, but I would suggest that in any country, not just America, politics is the thing that most affects your life, because that political umbrella grabs everything. It grabs jobs, it grabs religion, it grabs freedom, it grabs war, it grabs peace. So it's there. But a lot of people, and they fall into different categories. Some are just so disgusted with it. Well, that's fine. But, even if you have to vote for the least repulsive, So I think, what we have to do is figure out, we being the whatever name you want to give us, Democrats, liberals, whatever, how do we drag those people, not even to our side necessarily, But how do we get them to see that politics does involve them, and then hopefully guide them in such a way that they see, it is to their benefit to not have. Actually, it's to their benefit not to have Republicans. It really is. I mean,
Right.
and that goes back. That goes back to the New Deal, and maybe even a little bit before that.
And they're going to
But
find that out with the ACA in a couple of weeks, correct?
if things don't change, I mean, and
I seem to think that many smart Republicans, at least those in the Senate, are going to push. Something's got to be done because the whole hell's going to break loose when people's premiums go
well,
up.
I would agree. And again, so they're balancing out. In their mind, we're talking about it. In their mind, their whole career, and maybe even their life comes down to making the right choice: pro-Trump or anti-Trump. That's pretty big. I mean, if Trump emerges victorious from this, and you opposed him, you're in trouble.
Right.
If you do support him and he folds, then you're in trouble.
Well, Dave, if we go back to our original posit where we had said that, a lot of this is based on racism, the changing color of Americans over time. And there may be a point where we just realize that most of this is racism and that it won't matter how evil he is. They are going to vote for him because they are just that race. Now, I don't know how deep the racism is.
It's there. Of course it's there.
But we were able to get around it before. Now,
well, you've got a couple things going. First of all, it's now okay to express your racist feelings because, and we'll just touch briefly, just jump in to the Somalis.
you can say shithole country if you want.
Yeah, it's a shithole country. Why is it a shithole country? Because black people are there. I mean, there's no other way to interpret that. Okay?
Right.
There's no other way to interpret that. And again, if you want to take it on the other side, I'm sure there are reasons, and I don't know them, but obviously he's not said a bad word about Putin.
Not one. One.
But how many black people are in Russia? 4. I mean, seriously. I mean,
well, there are a few, but most of their students are students from Africa.
That's what I meant. I'm talking about, no. So, I think, and remember, if you go back and look at Donald Trump, 3 of the things that brought him to prominence prior to, 4. 3, first of all, he and his father were sued very early on for noncompliance with anti-discriminatory laws in New York. He was one of the first and took out a full-page ad in the New York Times, which is not cheap, labeling the Central Park 5, they should be shot, that kind of thing. He also was one of the leading spokespeople for the birther controversy over Obama, and what do we begin to see? Black. And remember, one of the things that I kind of subscribe to this theory. A few people, I shouldn't say a lot. There are people who think the moment he actually decided to run for president for real was when Obama ridiculed him at the press.
It's very interesting to hear what Jolie said here, just coming straight out with it.
Yeah, well, Julie, I mean, I would say, how does this? I don't see it's there. Okay, I mean, it's there in all of them almost. I'm, my ex. I don't even call him friend.
But it's a nice thing that somebody, a lot of kids take on the politics of their parents. But here's an example of somebody who can think their way through it. I'm sure she loves her father, but she can't deal with his racism.
Well, and of course, this is a terrible time for that,
Jolie,
because you're going for Thanksgivings, you're going for Christmases, you're going, and the old ways where you didn't talk about religion, you didn't talk about politics, and you didn't talk about money. Now, there are 3 of the big subjects, brought to this fore. But I don't think there's any question. I can't tell you how racist Donald Trump is, because he really doesn't care about anybody who he doesn't think can benefit him or is equal. You know what I mean? Like in terms of that. So a billionaire black person, I think he's okay with that. Kanye, somebody who comes out for him, what's the oh shit, one of the female rappers who's come out for him. It's like, so
I'm familiar to those names, but
knowing this, right? He would say, well, they're smart, but he doesn't know in his speech that you don't say all anybody and lose them. But that's that. Now now the other thing that fascinates me, we'll move off the three, but this just fascinates me. Okay, so a week ago, and this has been verified, the powers that be behind Trump were really terrified. They saw that he was slipping. They saw he was losing. So they came up with a plan to put him back out in the public, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he has the one big rally where he couldn't stay on topic, and he
cannot
in Pennsylvania. But another way, they thought, let's get him out on a national game, which was, of course, was the Army-Navy game, which was played yesterday. And Army and Navy, of
Where
course,
was that
go
played,
way back.
Dave? You used to be playing Philly.
Baltimore. No, it's Baltimore this year. So I think they move it around now a little bit. But anyway, so Trump gets them or gets whomever or says, I want to do it, to flip the coin. Now, what do you call that? Flip the coin, right? Flip the coin. Just everybody remember that. When it comes time, he just throws it up in the air. He did not even know how to flip a coin or know that that's how you're supposed to do it. He just threw it in the air. That was it. Now, that was not by design, okay? No. That wasn't like, I'm going to do it differently. One of two things is true. Either he didn't know how to flip, had never paid attention to it, that's just unbelievable how you can get that far. Now, if you say to me he's never driven a car, that would not surprise me. If you said he's never been to the grocery store himself, that would not surprise me. But we know he's been to football games. We know that he has had interest and still pretends maybe to have interest in the past. I just can't believe it. And I can't believe that somebody wouldn't have checked on him and say, yo, boss, now, this is going to be important, right? The nation's looking at you. We're kind of, and he throws a coin up. What's that? It means, again, to me, that the man just shouldn't be president. Now you say, whoa. You're going to be, no, with everything else. I'm not saying that's the sole reason. He does that. And here is where the cruelty comes in. I don't know if you followed this story. It really bothered me. Yeah, he thought he was playing cornhole. Well, he plays that, but it's a little different version of it. It's the other cornhole that he's talking about, apparently. Are you being invaded by ghostesses?
Ronnie's giving me some good news. We have a 2-hour delay tomorrow, and I just got some tea from her. So
go in tomorrow early.
I might still go in a half an hour early.
No, go in, you wiener, whiner, wimp. When I was teaching, Brian, the moment we heard there was a delay, we left our homes and went in and spent the night there. I just remember that.
Jolie, by the way, explained the situation with her father there. She said, we used to be able to get along because, I didn't tolerate his racism. So he used to keep it to himself.
And Jolie,
he's emboldened by Trump now. We can't be around each other without
I don't have
huge argument.
I don't have a psychological degree, but a couple things. That has to be tough, but you have to be true to yourself too. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're not your parents. You're not your parents. Yeah. I'm not my parents. You're not your parents.
Well,
you may have similarities, but we are not our parents.
But also, you have to give them props for bringing you into the world. After that,
I would I don't want to get into philosophical things.
Well, yeah, because
people bring in, I don't know if that's a gift. It's not a gift to everybody.
Oh, come on, Brian.
It is not. It is not. Some people, a lot of people come into this world and they have cancers and they have all kinds of problems. They have parents who have all kinds of problems who are not ready to be parents. So there are some just horrible things. Maybe you had a good upbringing and you had it easier, but not them.
Are you going to decide?
I can't. That's the problem because
otherwise
they're doing this without consent. In many cases, it's just because it felt good.
Well, okay, but
I mean, people back then didn't have sex to have children for the most part. People that did it because it felt good. It was the
well, I
number
would
one
dispute.
feeling.
I would dispute that.
They didn't know that
Now,
9 months later there was going to be a child.
uh,
I'm talking a
they,
thousand, two
I,
thousand, 3,000 years ago.
I understand. No, there you're wrong about that one, because it was to their benefit to have children, because that's who your workers were. I'm not saying it's a good reason,
That's not a good reason.
but it happens, Bry.
Okay.
And okay, and what I'm going to say is, depending on your life, I've met people. In fact, I was with one the other day who has been blind since he's 10 years old. Now, that's kind of, to me, that's, God, tragedy. And he's very successful. So my problem is, if you start deciding who can be born, and I'm not saying you went that far, but I mean, if you knew that this, even then, I think it's that way. And if you, in other words, I think existence is kind of a neat thing to go through, and you can't go
I
through
don't
it
know
if you're
about
not
that.
born.
Most things in evolution do not
Okay,
have a
would
good
you
existence.
rather have never existed or existed?
It depends on what happens to the rest of my life. If you, for example, if
Oh,
somebody
bullshit.
said, no, really, no, I'm going to give you a question. If somebody
So
said to you,
you've had
no, I'm here, I'm
65
giving you a thought experiment.
Whoa, let me ask you a question, then you can go. You've had 65 bad years.
No, I'm very lucky, but
Then
for
why
most
would you
people,
say
they're
it
not that
depends
lucky.
on what? Then why would you say it depends on what happens? Now
Because
you
we
can't
don't
tell
know.
me.
For example, Dave, you and I don't know what's going to happen the next 2 years or
Agree.
4 years. And if somebody would say to you, you're going to have a good life until you're 42, but then after that, you're going to get brain cancer, or you're going to be eaten by a shark, or life is going to be miserable.
I don't understand how you're worried about dying if you don't believe in heaven.
Well, the dying is the problem. I'm not worried. No, what I'm saying is, I'm not worried about death. Being dead is different. I am worried about dying. Dying is a frightful thing, and it's usually painful. Usually.
Well,
So,
if you believe that, why are you producing that music that's causing millions of people to
I'm
wish
trying to
they
give us a
never
little
existed?
sunlight in the shadow of life.
Oh my God! Oh my.
Look, we don't want to go into philosophy here because we'll arguing all night over this shit.
That's fine.
Okay.
Now, this one really does bother me, and it's kind of interesting. It actually ties in a little bit. So I don't know if you saw this week, the White House is fighting a law that says you have to have a translator or an interpreter when the president speaks. Now, doesn't that make sense? Right?
Are you talking
I mean, an interpreter-
about the hands?
deaf? Yeah,
Deaf for the deaf.
For the deaf. Now, and Trump is fighting it. And here's the reason. Here's the reason, which astounds me that they would even put this out. And I'm gotta look at my notes here just for a second because I want to say it right. Basically, they're saying having a language interpretation of a press briefing or a public event involving the president would affect Trump's image and how he appears in public. Let's just admit he has nothing else. Why would you even say that? So in other words, we'll take all the people drink like a normal person, not from a spoon.
I
Good.
don't put my pinky out, so don't worry about
Yes,
that.
you do. You're like that. So to me, it's not only that they're doing it; it's the rationale that they're not. And what's the saying now? They're saying the quiet parts out loud, and that's really what they're doing, right? And the other thing is another saying that I really do think is germane in this case is cruelty is the point. There's nothing else you can say about that. So, that's him being him, and we should all know, any sane, any empathetic, any intelligent person who can support him for president is doing it for their own reasons, not for anyone else's. You couldn't do that. You could not support that man. And
Their
not
own
have-
selfish reasons.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah, and look, we're kind of talking before. Of course, most people are not terrified. Most people are somewhere between concerned and terrified about the future. All right.
I'm actually terrified about the present. It's just,
Well,
it's here.
true. But what I'm saying is, I think that's part of this idea of holding on. we look at the past, this nostalgia of "Make America Great Again."
Well, in
Very
general,
easy
don't
to-
you think, Dave, that people try to hold on to the past because they don't want change, and yet that's all we do. Everything we do is rented. We never stay the same.
Right. Two things along those lines, because we were having this discussion down here not too long ago. And what's the old Chinese proverb? It's something like this: a man cannot put his foot in the same river twice. Okay, that's part of that thing. And the only constant in life is change. And that's true. Now, I do know that a number of people, depending on your mental, emotional makeup, just really don't like change. I mean, and that gets to your brain patterns. I mean, it's not necessary. I mean,
But they don't realize that they themselves are constantly changing, and they're only renting their body. I mean, they can't have anything. Everything that they love or they are attached to will either die or be gone. And they have to accept that. That's the way life is.
Correct.
For you, for me, we can't even hold on to our own body.
True. But I think, again, it comes down to the meaning of life. Now, I'm at a point in my life where I believe this to be true. I don't care if anybody else does, this works for me. Each person, one of their responsibilities when they're born is to determine the meaning of life for them and act on it. Now you say, well, wait a minute, Donald Trump. No, I'm talking about, obviously you can have bad meanings in life, but you and I have argued over this. I still maintain, and it has nothing to do with Christianity, that you can be a Christian and still be a good person. And I would agree that you could not be a Christian, and if you just took the words of Jesus Christ and lived according to those, you would be a good person.
And you can be a good person with just having common sense. Pain hurts.
True.
Don't do any harm. That's really
there
simple.
It is. That's really the.
But you don't need Christianity to tell you to behave.
But if, again, you and I differ on that point. I don't care how a person gets good. I care that they're good. That's
okay. I can live with that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't.
But if you're going to tell me that somebody's going to be good just so they can have a pass into heaven, that's being selfish. Be good because you know it's good to be good.
Well, I think that. I mean, that's what. Yeah, of course.
Because if you're saying that somebody's going to be good and you like that, they're accepting Christianity, but they themselves are only doing it because they want to get into heaven.
I don't care.
Or otherwise.
I don't care.
Well, then,
if they are good, why do I care how they?
Right, because you don't want them to affect you. Well, that's why we have police, or law enforcement.
No. What I'm saying is, I think my point. I don't know if I'm articulating it well. What I'm saying is, if a person is good, I do not care how they got to good. I just hope they can maintain it. I can't make them good. I can't keep them good. All that.
Well, is it inherently good to be good because you want to go to heaven, and that's it, not because good is the right choice?
I'm going to say, if you are a Christian, you're simplifying it way too much. I don't think that's the only reason. I think that a true Christian wants to be good because they want to help others, because they want to do the right thing.
Yeah, there are many who do that, right? But I don't know that you can say that for the Catholic Church. I don't know you can say that for many people.
Pope Leo's pretty good.
Because the first thing he ever talks about is heaven. Everybody keeps talking about heaven. I don't hear much about now. And they see this is just some kind of waiting room for what's to come.
And you realize that when you were little and your parakeet died and you prayed to God and he didn't restore life to your parakeet.
Yes.
That's why you're an atheist. I mean, I hope you know.
Well, no, it was. I think it was just some cognitive dissonance, and I realized that this thing called prayer was not for me. It's not helpful at all to me.
Okay.
I did a lot better when I just did something or just accepted that life is what it is. I'm not, it's putting the tea down on the table. It's not just these series of.
It's not slurping your tea on like you were doing.
Am I slurping?
That's not good. Drink the damn thing. All right, so Brian, how about this? Last week we talked a lot about hope. And would you agree, let's start here. Would you agree that some words, we ill-define them or we don't go far enough?
In general, yeah, I would agree that we define it. We paste our own meanings on words. We have semantic fiat.
Right.
We
Well, I think two of those words, one we discussed last week, and again, this is just my view. Hope. Oh, shut up.
Tap the start button in the upper
what's
right.
going on there?
Donald Trump is calling me. Hold on, I got him. It's over. He said, "Stop Brian's music," but we'll talk about that later. Now, you're right, Mr. Anthony. Buddhism, but let's do it this way, Brian. Last week we talked a lot about hope, and we had differing opinions. But see, when I say the word hope, action is implied in hope to me. Okay? Same thing with being a Christian. It's not just a thing, it's you must do the things that are Christian or the things that are good that are there. Now, we can get into all day about the Bible and the bullshit, and the Old Testament and the New Testament, of course. In fact, I loved a couple, there have been recently, there's been some, because Charlie Kirk is still in the news, where Mr. Kirk, would use a biblical thing like what is it? Is it Leviticus? I think it's the one reference of something about men should not sleep with men or something like that. And then, some of the young smart ones say, yeah, but it says if you plant two crops together, you're supposed to be stoned and your mother's the one supposed to stone you. I mean, there's ridiculous things.
It's horseshit, just complete horseshit.
But I would say this, again, it's interpretation. The Bible is two different books written for two different reasons, and none of them written by the hand of
And
God.
let's remember when it was written, when we didn't have any understanding of the way that the natural processes work on the planet,
course.
and
Well,
no
now
idea
what-
about psychology. I mean,
I mean,
yes,
think about-
some of the great leaders, the great Buddhist leaders and Jesus, they had an understanding of people.
They're philosophers, okay? I think one of the reasons I like Eastern religions more than Western is Western tends to use it for a power base, right? They come in, I think Buddhism is more a way to live. But anyway, I'm not going to rate it. I think
But
there's good and
denies,
bad.
dealing with the suffering. I think that there's not enough action there. It's just this
Well, but I'm
acceptance.
just- you have to-
Acceptance is okay, but my idea of what acceptance is not the same thing as what a Buddhist. And
Well,
acceptance to
and-
me
yeah.
is not saying, oh well. No, you understand that this is what we've been dealt, and you go on and you live like what Camus would say. Something like that, or an existentialist.
Shamu, the whale?
Yes.
Shamu, is that
Shamu.
what
Shamu.
Wow. Is he still hanging out there at SeaWorld? I don't know.
No, he works for Chamois Incorporated. The Sham.
Tebow.
I don't know what it is.
No, but it is something that I think if you want to use the argument, has religion been more problematic or less problematic in the world? To me, it's been more problematic.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
And I think
Everybody thinks they have the final word. We're the chosen
Well,
one. We're the ones
and
going to heaven, and the other one says everybody else is bullshit, and we are the
that brings
final
me
one.
to another one. And it was funny. I said I was having a conversation with this 92-year-old historian, and
He's going to be
something-
history.
And he said, I guess we can't even. Well, somehow he mentioned Australia, and I just kind of glanced over it. I didn't know. But then when I got off, I said, "What the hell happened to Australia?" Did you follow that story today?
Well, Australia, it's horrible. It's 15 people been killed.
And what reason were they killed?
I can only assume religious hatred, basically.
Absolutely. And that again. Now, Trump and the way he thinks, he would blame every, if it looks like it might have something to do with Gaza and Israel, blame every Palestinian. But it's not a group thing. And Anthony's right. I think what happened is,
Well, as far as I knew, Jesus was a Jew, but maybe I'm wrong.
no, he was. Well, of course he was. He also wasn't the fair-haired, blue-eyed.
No, he certainly wasn't. He wasn't. He didn't look
that-
like Brad Pitt. Although I have to admit, the Jesus that's up on the cross that we see traditionally, he's a good-looking guy for guys. I'm not a homosexual, but
Well, you could have fooled me.
I can notice an attractive body.
Well, wait a minute. I'm not so sure about that denial. I remember there was a period where you were really fascinated with sweaty gladiator movies. So I'm not.
Well, I did
I'm not
like
really-
these campy movies from the past, and
Oh, but we're laughing about that. But do you realize how much Rome had to do with Christianity? Pagan Rome. is really what the Christianity we have today is. I mean, a lot of it, whether it's, and again, they use allegory as a writer. I think it's beautifully written. I think the stories are really cool, but they're not, inspired or from God, that type of thing. But again, I'll just rest my case, as I say. My thing is, I don't care how a person gets to be good, however they get there. And the same thing, maybe it comes to that a little bit, Brian, comes from my involvement with, drug and alcohol addiction. I don't care how a person gets sober. I just care that they get sober. And I've seen people get sober by walking into AA. I got sober by spending 33 days in a rehab that gave me others have done it with religion. But was that your microwave that just...
That was we hit the golden hour.
All right, well, here we go. Since Brian will claim, now listen to this, people. Brian always says that, he cares about you and this show. And you, but now he already said he gets to sleep in 2 more hours tonight. And he's sitting there.
Well, I would say an extra hour because I do have to get up a little bit earlier to deal with a little bit of the ice and snow. But yeah, I get some extra time.
What'd you get? What'd you get? A half inch of snow?
We had 3 inches of snow. Actually,
really?
Yes, indeed.
Actually, it's funny.
And the problem is when you in the morning, that's the problem.
I know. And what's we joke about it, but 2 things I always believed when I was a teacher. One is better to be safe than be sorry. One bus rack, and you're done. And the second thing is I loved delays. I love snow days. And always in the back of my mind, and I used to tell young teachers, there were teachers that just, I just want to get started with my vacation.
Right.
And I said, listen,
you're not promised a day in your life. Take it while you have it.
The other thing is, under New Jersey law, you cannot hold school after June 30th. So yes, you might have to go on a Saturday, which we actually did. You might have to give up a little bit of your Easter break, but I just like those days off. So,
all right, Dave, land the question.
We accomplished so much tonight. No, I think again, if you're unfamiliar with this show for the first time, we only
please subscribe, folks. We did get a new subscriber tonight, which is very nice.
And we're planning, kind of a push soon, which will ask for help. Remember, never financial. Not with this channel. Never financial. If you want to send money, send it to me. Don't waste it by sending it to Brian, but you don't have to. The question that we always ask at the end is, just for this week, talking about from the last show, Sunday, usually Sunday, are you more optimistic, less optimistic, about the same? You go first, Brian.
I would say about the same. I was, slightly more optimistic last week, in the last couple of weeks. And I think that in general, I have this feel like there will be, I can sense that's why we label this the implosion. It's not there yet. And he's going to intimidate, and it could get worse. But right now, I think I'm just at a standstill. Is that I think that,
and I would tend to agree with you because some things move me down, but then some things move me up. The concern that I have, or a concern that I have over there lurking, but I can't let it affect, is there is a cliche, but it's often true. The injured rat is most dangerous when it's trapped.
Right.
And Donald Trump, right now, it's not even much of a jump to see him as an injured rat. In fact, a rat may have more humanity than he does. Okay. Mm-hmm. And again, everybody have a good week coming up, which Jolie tonight and some others have mentioned. It gets a little tough this time of year for a lot of different reasons, and not the least is with we're thrown in with family members or sometimes friends who have differing beliefs, and you have to figure out what works best for you. If it's stay home, stay home.
Right.
If it's go in and fight, go in and fight. But I think it's always best to try to find a middle ground. If everybody can kind of agree, we won't talk about this. I mean, you don't have to talk about it all the time. That's not a weakness, So if you do that. And the last thing, the most important thing I will tell you this week and perhaps in your whole lives, do not, under any circumstances, listen to any music that Brian has produced with Suno. And for those of you who don't know what Suno is, it's artificial intelligence music. And using the word intelligence with the music that Brian is producing is complete Travesty.
All right. Well, Dave, I appreciate your kind words. We'll end it from a word from our sponsors, Ideal,
It's not a fancy salon.
and we'll say goodbye to
But a
everybody.
Quonset hut. But if you've got a passion for fashion and you've got a craving for saving, take the wheel of your automobile and swing on down to Ideal.
And let me say
It
something about
swings.
this song.
Go ahead, Dave.
Brian.
You've probably
chose
been
this
to
song-
Ideal in Hamilton.
Brian chose this song over Hotel California, Stairway to Heaven, Freebird.
Definitely better Freebird.
If you've got a passion
As
for
a better song.
fashion and you've got a craving for saving, take the wheel of your automobile and swing on down to Ideal.
The Ideal
Yeah.
manufacturer
Well, we'll end-
is on Route 30,
If you hear
the White
that,
Horse Pike
if
in
you hear that
Hamilton,
song,
New Jersey.
and you want to, like
Open
me,
every
wants to
night and
throw
all
up.
day
Dave
Sunday.
knows that song, by the way.
Oh yeah, of course.
Very,
it's
very well.
Under your brain. The idea of it is, if you hate that song, Brian's music is even worse. So for whatever you do, just say no to Brian's music.
I do have some. I did do a Russian tune. It's about existentialism today. Maybe I could end it with that. You might not like.
Why not?
I like it. You might like it.
Смотрю в потолок, трещины означают судьбу. Это начало. Или я опоздал,
Okay, I'm gonna do
тихо
some voiceovers
шепчет
for you.
пустота.
Hey,
Но
your
я не
dancing
могу
is bad.
перевести.
Words are bad. The Russian translation is bad. The music is
Кто
bad.
я такой? Кто мы такие? Мы волны в бескрайнем море, рожденные разбиться.
I really have to.
Okay, you have to go. All right, Dave. No, really, he listens to all my shit, and he just jokes. So he's gonna be listening to that as soon as.
Brian.